For RavenCentral.com, my name is Clay Miller, and this is the Extra Point. Today, I'm joined by Katie Wyndham. We're going to discuss Alabama Gymnastics and their meet yesterday in the NCAA semifinals. We're not able to advance past the semifinals, obviously very disappointing. And so, Katie, what did you see from them yesterday, and what kind of led to that result?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a semifinal session with, number one Oklahoma and number four Utah, and they're the fifth seed. So technically, I mean, if you're just looking at rankings and scoring, they're not necessarily expected to advance. But yesterday they started out on bars, which is their best event, and just left a lot of points out there, a lot of little deductions on leg separations and transitions between the high and low bar, and did not stick a lot of their landings, which normally bars is one of the events that they're best at doing that. And so those little deductions added up. And so instead of getting off to a really strong start on their best event, they kind of were already in a hole. When you're going against teams like Oklahoma and Utah, that's hard to do. But then, Beam, they had some really solid routines, but then they also had two pretty costly mistakes there that had caused them to have a little bit lower score than they would have wanted. But they kind of rebounded on floor, had a strong rotation, kind of got back in the meet. And so if they wanted a chance to advance, they were going to have to do really well on vault. And they just did not stick really any of their vaults outside of Shallon Olsen and one other person that I can't remember off the top of my head. And there's some really big hops and deductions. And so, when you're on that stage, those little deductions add up pretty quickly, and they ended up getting their third lowest score of the season. So their lowest score since week 2 at Florida, which is not really what you want to see at that point in the year.
Obviously, a lot of pressure on a meet like that too. So that might have contributed to the way they performed, but still a really good year, making it that far, in the top 8 teams in the country. So, what are your overall takeaways from this season, and how are they set up, for the coming year, next year?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say this was probably one of the best regular seasons in the Dana Duckworth era, at least scoring wise. And even, at the regional in Seattle, they scored really high. And so this team, they scored a 198 3 times, which I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure they hadn't scored a 198 since 2014. And so not only did they do it, they did it 3 times. And so they were able to show the depth that they've built within the program, because they dealt with a lot of injuries and sickness and stuff like that, and having to plug people in and out of the lineups. And so you are going to lose, 5th year Lexi Graper heading into next year. There's a couple seniors that I don't know. That's the complicated thing with the COVID year now, that you don't know if they're going to use their extra year of eligibility or not. But I think, which I talked to Dane about this at the beginning of the season, kind of the core group for this team is that class. It's the junior class this year that'll be the seniors next year. That's Makari Doggett, Luis Blanco, Maddie Wallagore, and Ella Burgess. And if that group can stay healthy, because we even saw at the end of the year, Makari was limited to only bars. Louisa dealt with the injury at the end of the season. If that group can stay healthy, they have really big scoring potential. The future's bright for this year's freshmen, Lily Hudson and Jordan Paradise. And we also saw some good things out of Shania Adams. And so overall, it was a good season. Definitely a disappointing finish for some of the flashes of potential they've shown. But I think also the future is bright for this program moving forward.
Right. Obviously, I'm sure the goal was to advance to the end and give themselves a chance to win it all, but unfortunately couldn't do that. But like you said, a lot of good, talented people on the team, and then they'll try to do it next year. Thank you so much for joining me today, Katie. Appreciate your time. Once again, for RavenCentral.com, my name is Clay Miller, and this has been The Extra Point.